Okay, today is 3.5, finding real roots of polynomial equations. We have previously learned a few methods for factoring polynomials, and then previously we had learned the zero product property. That said that you can find the roots or the solutions of the polynomial equation p of x, or any polynomial equation, by setting it equal to 0. Simply factor it, set each factor equal to 0, and solve for x. We had done it for situations like this, where we had something like x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. And then we would factor this out to x plus 3 and x plus 1. And then break those up and do x plus 3 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, and then just solve. So x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 1. So we did it for whenever we had a quadratic equation. Now we're going to try to do it with polynomials. So we're going to take what we've learned the past couple of days in the last section and apply it using the zero product property from before. So we start by factoring the polynomial equation. Now we're going to go the same traditional route that we did. If I look at this first one, before I try to group it or anything like that, let's go ahead and see what we can factor out of each term. I have a 4, and a 24, so I can pull a 4 out of each one of those. Additionally, there's x to the 6th, x to the 5th, and x to the 4th. X to the 4th is in all of them, so I can pull in x to the 4th out. That leaves me with x squared plus x minus 6. So now I have to factor this out. Remember, we're trying to figure out what multiplies to give us negative 6 and adds to give us x, or just 1. So the things that multiply to give us negative 6 would be negative 6 and 1, 6 and negative 1, negative 3 and 2, and negative 2 and 3. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6, but 6 minus 1 is 5. That's not a 1. Here I have negative 6 and 1. That multiplies to give you negative 6. Add them together, it's negative 5. That's not a positive 1. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 2 plus 3 is a positive 1. So I know that this is going to be x minus 2 and x plus 3. We also keep our 4x to the 4th in there. Now I break each piece up. I'm going to set the 4x to the 4th equal to 0. X minus 2 equals 0. And x plus 3 equals 0. And now just solve for x. Divide by 4. It gives me x to the 4th equals 0. To get rid of my 4th power, I would take the 4th root. 4th root of 0 is still 0. So my first one is x equals 0. The second one, I add 2 to both sides. X equals 2. And then the last one, subtract the 3 over. X equals negative 3. So 0, 2, and negative 3 are my answers. And those are all my zeros for this question. Now I'd like you to try. We have x. Before I make you try this, I'm going to give you a little bit of help. So we have solve the polynomial equation by factoring. The first thing I have to do is get everything on the same side. So I'm going to subtract this 26x squared over. So that's x to the fourth minus 26x squared plus 25. Now I check to see if there's anything I can pull out of all three terms. There's not in this case, which is not fun. Okay, if this is a positive term and this is a negative, it means that I have to have two minuses when I break this up. So this has to be a minus and this has to be a minus. What multiplies to give me x to the fourth? That would be an x squared times x squared. Then what multiplies to give me positive 25 and adds to negative 26? Think of 25. Have to be negative 5 and 5, or negative 25 and negative 1. Negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. That's not negative 26. Negative 25 minus 1 is negative 26. So this would be minus 25 and minus 1. Set that equal to 0. Now, these are both difference of two squares. I can tell because this is a square, a perfect square, and so is this. So that tells me that this is going to break down even further. And my x's. X times x gives me x squared. What squared gives me 25? It would be 5. So this is a plus 5 and a minus 5. Order does not matter. Here, x times x gives me x squared. What multiplies to give me a negative 1? That would be negative 1 and positive 1. Now that I have these factors, I break them apart and set each equal to 0. X minus 5 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. And x plus 1 equals 0. Solve each one of those. X equals 5. X equals negative 5. X equals 1. And x equals negative 1. What does all that really mean now? If I go into my Desmos, I'll be able to see what that actually means. So now that I'm in here, I can enter my equation. X to the fourth minus 26x plus 25. And when I look, I have a 0 at 1, 0, and a 0 at 2.525. This is not really what I was trying to prove. That's better. Like, I completely messed this up, or I forgot to put my exponent of 2 in there. Alright, that's better. So now when I look at this, I'm going to have a 0 at negative 5, at negative 1, 1, and 5. Which is exactly what I found when I found my zeros. 5, negative 5, 1, and negative 1. Alright. Now this one I want you to try on your own. See if you can figure out what to do first. And solve it. When you're done, I will go over it. give you a couple minutes to try that. Okay, the first thing I need to do is check to see if I can pull anything out. I can pull a 2 out of each one of those. So 2 comes out in front. And there's also an x to the 4th in all of them. So I'm going to pull an x to the 4th out. Oops, I don't know why I put an equal sign. That leaves me with x squared minus 5x and minus 6. Now I have to try to factor this out. Well, multiplies to give me negative 6 and adds to negative 5. X minus 3 and x, that's not right, it would be x minus 6 and x plus 1. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Now break it up. 2x to the 4th equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. And x plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to do you a big favor here. I'm going to let you know that anytime you have the single term, like 2x to the 4th, it could be 2x to the 75th power. If it's equal to 0, x equals 0. And that's because we don't have anything being added or subtracted from this number. Now jump to here. I can add the 6 to both sides. Gives me x equals 6. Jump to here. Subtract my 1. X equals negative 1. Those are my 3 zeros. Okay, here's our last example for the day. I want you to try to do this one, and then we will come back and go over. First thing we do is get everything on this side. So I need to add this 50 over. X cubed minus 2x squared minus 25x plus 50 equals 0. Now, I don't see anything I can pull out here. I'm going to group it and see if I can factor. I can pull an x squared out of both of those. X squared comes out in front. Leaves me with x minus 2. I can pull a negative 25 out here. Leaves me with x minus 2. Now regroup. X squared minus 25 times x minus 2. And then I can factor the x squared minus 25 out. And that's x plus 5 and x minus 5, x minus 2. Set each equal to 0, and then solve it. All right, so on Monday, we will keep going with these notes, and you'll get some homework on this topic. And then we'll progress from there. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you Monday.